How long does it take you to go from 24% body fat down to 10% body fat? Now, I've been overweight my entire life, and if there was one burning question that I always had, it was how long would it take for me to get abs and to get shredded? And in this video, I'm going to go through exactly how long each phase of my transformation took and why, and most importantly, how exactly you can find out how long it's going to take you to get to 10% body fat. Long story short, it took me 6 months or 24 weeks in order to lose 15 kilograms to go from 24% body fat all the way down to 10. Now, the first phase was my maintenance / recomp phase, which lasted for about 6 weeks. And the entire reason that I did this was that in this picture right here, I am currently detrained. And that's because the first time I ever lost weight, right, what I ended up looking like, just not a pretty sight at all. And so at this point, I hated fitness and dieting that I stopped training and I just got fat again, ballooning all the way back up to 83 kilograms here. And so what I did was I ate at my maintenance, which at the time was 2,600 calories, and I was doing about 10K steps at the time. Now, this was one of the most critical and important phases of my entire transformation. This basically healed my metabolism, right, from previously being on 1,600 calories, and it got me absolutely training in the gym like a goddamn beast. It's like I was a fucking gorilla that escaped from the zoo and suddenly found a gym to go into and just started banging out the weights. That's what it felt like eating at maintenance after eating like such low calories for the longest amount of time. Now, this phase was incredibly important because I built as much strength and muscle as possible in this phase, which this foundation of muscle pretty much carried me to looking actually lean and aesthetic at the end. And if you don't believe me, these are me at the exact same body weight, bro. Like I still cannot fucking believe it. And the only difference that I look so much better here is that I've simply got more muscle. And in order to do that, because I was detrained, I actually had to build up a foundation of strength first, from which then I could get stronger throughout the weeks. And I'll get into exactly how in the next point, but so that I could get stronger throughout the weeks and not lose any muscle or size. This phase for me was sort of like the jumping pad for the rest of the phases in my transformation. And this was one of the most critical points of the entire transformation. I know you're tempted to just go straight into a fat loss, but I shit you not, this is what you're going to be looking like if you don't build the strength foundations that you need to at the start. I've made this mistake so that you don't have to. There's no point in you watching this video if you're just going to make the same mistakes I did. Now, of course, it's going to be boring eating at maintenance for 6 weeks because your scale weight's not going to move. Right? Chances are, if you've been overweight like me your entire life, you constantly just want to lose weight, and get leaner. You're not mentally sort of prepared to sit at maintenance for 6 weeks and like to see your scale weight just go like this, stay completely flat. And I was in this exact same position. I was actually kind of pissed off about this because I was like, bro, I'm not getting leaner. Like, what the fuck is going on? But it's only after the fact that I can see how important it is. Now, the entire point of this is so that you can get your body used to eating a super high amount of calories. And that's going to be important because we're going to go on to our next point. Now, the cutting phase took me around 16 weeks. And on average, I was losing around 1 kilogram per week, right? Give or take a few weeks here. Now, what I did to start this aggressive cutting phase was that I took my initial maintenance calories, which was 2,600, and I reduced it down by 200. So I was eating 2,400 calories, right? And what I did was I increased my steps by 2,500. Now, what that did was it got me losing a good amount of weight per week. Like, I could not believe it because in this last cut, I had to eat for the majority of this cut 1,800 calories in order to actually see the weight scale go down. But in this cut, for the longest amount of time for cutting, maybe like 12 to 13 weeks of this, right? I was eating 2,400 calories and still losing weight. And that is exactly why the maintenance phase is so important, because it gets your body used to eating higher calories. Because right now you might just be used to eating like 2,100 calories, 2,200 calories. And for you, there's no choice but to go down to 1800, 1700, 1600 to see the weight scale go down because you haven't done this recomp or maintenance phase to actually get your calories up there. Which brings us on to our last problem, because if you're eating like 600, 500 less calories per day, how are you going to expect to build strength and build muscle in the gym, which, as we went over, is the main differentiating factor between how aesthetic you look or if you'll just end up skinny fat? If you're eating that low of calories, you cannot expect to actually make this good of a transformation because you won't build as much muscle throughout. Now, here's also what was extremely important in this aggressive cutting phase, right? All the other fitness or influencers online will tell you that every single time that your weight loss plateaus, you take away 200 calories and then you continue to lose weight. But again, we run into the same problems of if every chance you get, you take away goddamn calories. It's just like, how are you going to build more muscle and more strength? Exact same point. You're not going to be able to, hence end up looking skinny fat. Now, the solution to this is what I call the high output model. And that's mainly comprised of the 3 C's: high calories, high cardio, high carbs. The reason that I could keep my calories so high and still lose weight was that every single plateau, I only increased output, which basically means that I either added in 5,000 daily steps or an additional 20 minutes of cardio 5 times weekly. Now, any addition of this cardio will get you back onto the train of losing weight. Obviously, there will come a time where we have to pull away calories if you want to actually get like crispy lean. And that point is when you're doing so much physical cardio per day, you feel like you cannot add any more, otherwise you're just going to be burnt out. And that point for me was that I was doing 25,000 steps daily and I was doing 1 hour of cardio 5 times a week. I was doing so much like physical activity that I was nearly about to burn myself out. But then at home, I was just like stuffing myself full of food because I was still eating 2,400 calories, right? And so in this stage, I was like, bro, I'd rather just take away calories. Just like, please let me take away calories. It was then only that I took away 200 calories and I ended up eating 2,200 at the end of my diet here. Now, obviously, there's something a little bit wrong because this entire transformation took 24 weeks, right? This took 6 weeks. The actual cutting phase took 16 weeks. That's only 22 weeks. But here's the thing, I had maintenance phases sprinkled in, and this is basically where I just ate at maintenance because of an external event. And what I mean by this is that halfway throughout this cut, I had my university final exams, right? And honestly, I couldn't be asked to like pull 8 to 10 hours study days while still doing this high amount of output and like, you know, training super hard in the gym and stuff. And so I thought it was worth it to just go back to maintenance volume at the gym, which was around 3 days a week, and to just eat at maintenance, which means that I didn't have to worry about, you know, being in a deficit, and I didn't have to expend as much brain power towards fitness. Now, I was still at maintenance, you know, I didn't fuck anything up, but it was a sort of time of lower effort into fitness and more into studies, which worked out in the end. You know, I did pretty well. And the other times where I took a maintenance break was basically where my scale weight wasn't dropping, and it wasn't due to a plateau. It was just the fact that my body was so like fatigued from this high output that the only thing that, instead of taking away calories, which would only fatigue me more and to make me hold on to like more water weight, the way that I got rid of this was taking a maintenance break for like maybe 2, 3 or 4 days at the max if I really needed it, which basically just reduced all my fatigue, reduced my cortisol, reduced, you know, inflammation and stuff, and which actually got the scale weight dropping much more again. Now, we can move on to the sort of crux of the matter here. How long is it going to take for you specifically to go from, you know, wherever you are now all the way down to 10% body fat? So the first thing is obviously to work out your body fat percentage. Now, the most accurate one that I found is this one by Ultimate Performance. So just search this up, right? Or maybe just pause the video and have a look and be honest with yourself. There's no point in lying to me because that's only going to make your journey take much longer. And estimate roughly like where you are, but don't bullshit yourself. Now, after that, you pretty much have to work out how many kilograms you have to lose in order to get to 10% body fat. Now, the formula for this is actually pretty simple, right? 1% of body fat is going to be roughly equivalent to 1 kilogram of fat taken off your body. And so whatever percentage body fat you are now, maybe you're 22%, maybe you're 24, just like I was, work out what the difference is to get to 10%. And for me, it was 14. And in reality, I had to lose around 15 kilograms. So it is actually quite accurate. But remember, that's actually not going to be the total time for your journey, right? Because remember, we still have our setup phase of 6 weeks. And again, I know, it's going to be boring as fuck. You probably don't want to do it, but I mean, that's your choice. If you want to end up skinny fat, be my guest, bro. Now, your cutting phase is going to be however long that difference that you've just worked out is. So for me, let's just say 14-ish weeks, right? Now, you're going to take that 14 plus the 6 weeks for the recomp phase and plus 2 weeks for just any like maintenance breaks that you want to take on your journey. And these are incredibly important as well. You'd lose more weight taking maintenance breaks than if you didn't take maintenance breaks. Like in the long run, they're so crucial. So for me, if I was doing this, I would have been like, okay, I'm 24% body fat. That means I need to lose around 14 kilograms, which will take me 14 weeks in the aggressive cutting phase, plus the 6 weeks for the recomp phase. Okay, that's 20 weeks. And then plus, maintenance breaks, which is, 2 weeks. And so that would be like 22 weeks. And in reality, it took me 24 weeks. I lost a little bit less weight 1 week, compared to the next. And so I had to increase my plateaus and stuff. So I took an extra 2 weeks, to actually lose the weight. But this is probably going to give you the most accurate time frame for when you'd actually complete your transformation. But that's basically it for this video, boys. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like one-to-one coaching, you can click the first link in the description down below. And make sure to follow me on Instagram, where I'm posting daily bangers every single day, jam-packed full of value. But yeah, man, I'll catch you in the next one.